Okay, you just saw Cruel Shoes, probably as part of a block of good comedy. And we have the filmmakers who made it possible. Uh, Go ahead and, well, we've got Kevin Peterson up top and John Clark down below. And I believe we have writer-director up here and main animator. John, you're the main animator?
I was the producer. All the
Producer.
animators were artists in the Exceptional Minds studio.
Excellent. So you were a producer. Gotcha. Sorry,
Yes,
sorry, I got that wrong.
that's okay.
And I
No,
assume we
no
should.
one knows what a producer does. It's fine.
Yeah, well, especially in animation. Yeah, it's in the credits. It's John Clark Animation, production manager. I see it now. So I assume the story starts with Kevin getting the idea to animate this old classic Steve Martin bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge Steve Martin fan. Love his work, and I was talking with my wife. I've been living in the indie world now for over a decade, and I was talking to my wife about how I'll never get a chance. Didn't seem like I was going to get a chance to work with some of the actors and comedians that I really loved. And then had this epiphany of being able to work with them through licensing an old clip of Steve Martin's to kind of honor his work, and so in a roundabout way, being able to kind of enter that world, and worked out a deal with Warner Brothers. We were able to get the rights to Cruel Shoes, and animate it as a 2-minute animated short.
And did you have Exceptional Minds in mind when you started, or did you discover them when you were looking for animation
I
services?
did. So Exceptional Minds I've worked with in the past. My last film was a feature film called Scales Mermaids Are Real. And we did, I think, we had 82 visual effects shots. I believe we did over 70 of them through Exceptional Minds on the visual effects side of their house. And so I knew that they had an animation portion, which I had not worked with before. And so absolutely approached them, having kind of that work history and just knowing their work. And that's where I got to work with John.
Great. And John, what was it like? How did Kevin just play you the bit and start describing things, or did you guys collaborate on that?
Oh, well, that's a good question. We got lucky. Exceptional Minds is an animation studio and visual effects studio and school for young adults on the autism spectrum. So when Kevin approached us, we are capable from taking something from just an idea to a finished product. So we've written scripts, we do post-production, we do everything in the animation studio, and we're happy to do that. But when Kevin approached us, he already had the storyboards completed. So we took it from basically a storyboard form to a finished product. And obviously we already had the audio, which was the Steve Martin bit, which is wonderful. So our job was to take really well-designed characters and shots that were already basically blocked out and sort of smooth them out, animate them, color them in, and finish them, and do all the animation. And our artists, who are all on the autism spectrum, did an amazing job, as you've just seen, doing that part of the process.
And Jeff, there's kind of an important step that happened. In the indie film world, you never know how things are going to shake out, right? Because you're kind of bootstrapping everything, pushing it through its enthusiasm and love that kind of gets a lot of this stuff done. And initially, when kind of conceptually with Cruel Shoes, I was in a producer role. I was not directing it initially. I had partnered with an individual animator named Tim Roch, and I'd worked with him on. Was a producer on a short that he had done the previous year called Mushroom Park. And the initial idea was that Tim, who studied under Bill Plimpton, was going to animate the whole thing. He does all the hand-drawn animation, and so he was originally going to direct it. And he ended up moving on. I can't blame him for eventually turning away from Cool Shoes, because he went on to Netflix as the head of animation for Netflix. And so when he took that role, the project basically stopped. And in the indie world, then what what I've learned to do then is you just do the work that needs to get done. So I picked it up from there. Tim had gotten through all of the storyboards and directed it myself, which is exactly what I'd done on the feature film side. I had started as a feature film writer, and when my first project got stalled with some producers, I picked it up and finished producing it, and then I ended up directing it myself. So I've learned that methodology to just get it done. And that's where it kind of died. And then fortunately, with Exceptional Minds, I mean, the talent that they have and the vision that they brought to it brought it through to completion. So I'm very, very pleased with the results and where we ended up.
Yeah, Exceptional Minds is wonderful. I assume I don't have to say it, but anyone who's watching Sherman Oaks Film Festival screening sees our opening bumper that takes place with wombats in a movie theater, and all that is completely generated from the creativity of the artists at Exceptional Minds. I think I gave I would not be considered, I think all I said was start with our logo. and what we ended up with is something that starts with the logo and is just superb from start to finish. So obviously there's, I totally get how you were able to in a pinch turn your project over to Exceptional Minds and get exactly what you were looking for.
The really cool thing about animation, I have a love for animation, but all my animations have been in the short form medium, and my live action's been on the feature side. But in animation, one of the really kind of amazing parts of working with Exceptional Minds was to go around and meet all of the individual artists. And as you're talking through the piece and working on, your specific shots and things for the project, you also see just the amount of creativity that's there. Everybody has a comic book they've done, they're doing on the side, characters they've developed. I saw all the reels of all the different animators that worked on this project, and they were doing voices in other animations, and just the amount of kind of creative energy that comes out of Exceptional Minds is amazing.
Yeah, I should probably ask John, do you want to name all the animators that worked on this one?
Geez, let me try to think who it was. It was Dylan Carbonell, Jacob Olson, I think Chris Itamagoda, Michael Shu, I believe Nassim Sabakpay did some character designs. Definitely want to thank Scott Sackett and Howie Hoffman for doing some direction and creative direction and supervising of the artist. I hope I'm not leaving anyone out. I think that's most of the animators who did the bulk of the work on this.
And Ron.
Oh, Ron Yavnieli did some directing and supervising of the artist as well. He's amazing.
And were any of the artists familiar with this Steve Martin record before, or was this new material for them?
Well, I'll say I don't know that many of them were in love with the record in terms of like grew up with it or anything like that. But I will say that they were all familiar with Steve Martin, and they were all excited to work on a Steve Martin bit. And they were no stranger to his comedy. And in terms of me and the other directors and supervisors, we were incredibly excited to have that on our resume. Like, oh, we worked on a Steve Martin bit. Like, that's a feather in our hat for sure.
It's a bucket list.
Oh yeah.
Check one off the bucket list. And then, I'll mention too, Susan Zorman, who used to oversee Exceptional Minds. She's retired this year, but had the chance to work with her as well, kind of I've known Susan now for a couple of years through some of my previous projects. And she was an amazing energy too, to just kind of come in early on, initially when we were approaching Exceptional Minds, to kind of champion it internally, because any project, you're competing for resources and time and energy, right, against everything else. And this was pre-pandemic when there was more production happening. To have that internal champion is amazing too. So
Yeah, Exceptional Minds. I mean, I had the privilege of visiting and getting a full tour of both the school and all the production areas. I mean, it's a mini studio right there in Sherman Oaks.
mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and we're a neighbor and a supporter of the Sherman Oaks Film Festival for sure.
Thank you. Well, I think an obvious question, if we had the privilege of being in a theater in Sherman Oaks right now, someone would have asked, how long was the process? It sounds like Kevin's process was really long, from concept to when you got to Exceptional Minds.
Mine started when I was 8 and first heard the album.
And then how long was the animation process?
Kevin, you might have to remind me. I feel like we turned it around pretty fast. I mean, there was, like we explained earlier, we got it and it was already, moving along in the process. We had an animatic, we had storyboards, but I believe it took us about 2 months, maybe 3 at the most, to get all the animation fully completed.
Yeah, about 2 months was and then post the animation, we did some sound mixing as well. So the original, we used Steve Martin's original audio track, which was recorded in front of a live audience. So you hear the laugh, it's not a laugh track that's added, it's the live audience laughing to his material when he's doing all the voices. But there's also, you hear the sound effects and when you see the cruel shoes and the mechanisms, all those things were all done in post. That took another 3 weeks or so to kind of get through post-production and sound design to put all those additional elements in together. So almost about 3 months in terms of solid production. And then the early part of the development and the licensing of the rights took about 2 years to get through the contract with Warner Brothers, the initial concept, working with Tim on the storyboards, and then getting a small chunk of money to be able to make it happen.
I have to admit, I was very impressed when you talked about licensing with Warner Brothers Records, because Lord knows a lot of films come through the festival and they'll have a song or something in it, and I'll ask and they go, no, we just took it. And I'm like, you realize how limiting that's going to be moving forward? Like you're it's on YouTube for 17 seconds and it's going to get pulled off by a bot.
It was important to do this the right way because as I said before, I'm a big fan of Steve Martin's, but I also want to honor his work, right, and do it through the appropriate channels and do it with the right blessings. And the idea was to have this take stand-up comedy and have it where you can experience it in a new medium and hopefully open up new audiences to his earlier stand-up albums who aren't familiar with the work.
Yeah, it's hard for people like us to think that there's people who did not grow up listening to every Steve Martin record from
who wouldn't know Steve Martin? Yeah.
I wore them out. The vinyl.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you guys want to say to wrap up? Any collaborators or a funny story? It's not like there's I assume animation has lots. Every day is a fun day, but I'm sure there wasn't a day when a big dump truck pulled up and threw off the whole production. That's a nice thing about working on computers.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's been a good process, and I think hopefully people found some fun kind of hidden gems within the animation as well. There's a few, if you're familiar with Steve Martin's work, there's a few Steve Martin nods buried into the animation also. And I think just moving forward, we're taking this kind of concept of animating stand-up and working with the executive producers on this short to try to do a larger format, TV format of a show with Exceptional Minds and see if we can get that off the ground. So, never know where one project will lead to another.
That would be tremendous. My gosh. And no one bothered to say it. So this audio bit is from his album, The Cruel, it's from Comedy's Not Pretty, right?
Right. Yes.
Which you know, the third album, but a good starting point if someone wants to listen to Steve in his prime.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that would be amazing. That would be amazing if you started animating with Exceptional Minds, a series of comedy classics. My God, that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. We have a show in development that is getting ready to go out and be pitched. So that's kind of taking this concept and be wildly different than the Cruel Shoes short, but the concept of animating classic comedy for a new generation.
Well, I'm sure if we'd had the privilege of showing this to a theater full of 60, 70 people, I'm sure there'd be a great amount of enthusiasm as we filed out onto the sidewalk, people coming up and saying, "Oh man, I hope you get that TV show going."
You can add that in, right? The applause and we'll just add that in
Yeah,
now.
yeah, no, I mean
Yeah.
it's I know it would have been, I'm sure it would have been adored. It's really cool animation and great design. And thank you both for the work you did. And thank you to Exceptional Minds for recommending Kevin send it over to the Sherman Oaks Film Festival. I have to admit, I get Howie Hoffman's emails throughout the year, and when I saw that COVID was forcing Exceptional Minds to dial back a lot this year, I thought, oh man, I guess we won't be able to have a nice, you know, we showed a nice show reel of various works last year. So
Yeah.
fingers crossed next year there will be another Exceptional Minds block. But I'm delighted that Cruel Shoes allowed us to not go a year without you.
Yeah, unfortunately, animation is something that filmmakers can turn to as a medium to keep some ideas alive. Because during the pandemic, you can animate a little easier than you can get 20 people in a room to shoot a scene. So
Yeah, we've been fortunate during the pandemic to be able to work remotely, and we've continued to do projects. So Jeff, you'll be seeing us next year.
That is great
Definitely.
news.
And it was very easy when Kevin emailed me. We got really excited when working with Kevin because he was like, I'm pitching this to film festivals. I'm submitting. If you have any that you want to recommend, I'm all ears. And we were like, well, it's a no-brainer. And so we have a list of film festivals we've participated in, and Sherman Oaks Film Festival is at the top of that list. So when Kevin reached out and said, "Hey, we got into Sherman Oaks," I was like, "Oh, this is just perfect. It couldn't have worked out better."
And I have to say, there was no bias involved. I didn't even realize, because I did not notice this Exceptional Minds connection until long after it had received high ratings from all the jury, and I knew it was an official selection. It was actually preparing for the Q&A with Kevin that watching it again, that was the first time I got to the credits, because believe me, when you have like hundreds of films to watch, you don't watch the credits. You
sure,
right.
skip. So wonderful to see that you're all doing great work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Well, sorry that I have to run, but couple minutes.
This interview went longer than the short, so we're good.
That's true. Well, it would have been quite unfair to discuss it in under 2.5 minutes.
Now with bonus scenes longer than the film.
That's right. That's right. Well, hey, if you ever put out a commemorative Blu-ray,
yeah, this will be included.
You'll have this footage.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks, John. Thanks, Kevin. And you guys have a great day.
Thank you, too.
All right, thanks.
Bye.